And I know some of you were here last time. I told you I was going to be juggling fire. I decided not to do that. It's just a little bait and switch. I actually have hundreds of slides and data and graphs for you, so it's going to be awesome. Just as comparable.
But your slides are going to be fire.
Yeah, they're going to be red. So how many of you have ever heard at work the following? Stay in your lane. Don't rock the boat. We've always done it this way. And my personal favorite, I don't know why. That's just the way we do things around here. Not fun. I've had that job many times. It's a huge pet peeve of mine. Slightly irritates me. These comments are an effect that not only happen at work, but in life. You're having a problem, you're stressed out, talking with a friend, they make the simplest of suggestions to you, and you go, duh, why didn't I think of that? Because you're stressed. Those comments are usually a cause that is often missed. At work, it happens long before the comments with broken systems. You've all seen how addressing the effects is a temporary solution. It can even create different problems for you. It's like congestion in Bozeman. You know, that ain't gonna fix it. When someone says to me, oh, it'll relieve parking downtown, I instantly get like this. So it's one of those things, you gotta address the right thing. So I started my operations business, Mountain Muda, and this is the unveiling world premiere of my logo, thanks to John right here. Muda is the Japanese word for uselessness or wastefulness. It's part of lean manufacturing. Most people have heard that. There's 7 pieces of waste in the lean process. And so it's all about removing the wastefulness in your business. So what I do is I help people have more time to breathe, improve employee and customer satisfaction, improve employee and donor retention for nonprofits, and change just the environment of the business. By improving the processes and updating, most of the things I do is improving processes, updating systems, and reducing expenses, because addressing those causes are usually the catalyst or a solution to a lot of the problems that people are focused in on and stressed about. And when people are stressed and anxious, they tend to focus on the effects and develop tunnel vision, because our brains are wired to develop tunnel vision. There is a Hidden Brain episode. It was in August of last year. It's called U 2.0 Tunnel Vision, and it kind of goes into a lot of detail about it. It's super interesting, so worth checking out. I would explain it to you, but I think it's just better to show you. So, guys, I just solved all your relationship troubles. You know, I just saved you a lot of time in therapy, so you're welcome. But it's obviously a relationship video, but I also see it as a business video. This is any owner, and it could be an employee as well. Stressed, overwhelmed, busy. There's too many distractions, you know, and she has tunnel vision on the effects and not seeing the biggest problem right in front of her. It's stressful and overwhelming to think about, especially this early in the morning. There are effective ways to identify pain points and find solutions to the cause. And here's some of the ways that I tackle it, and you can as well. Let's look at it from the standpoint of the 3 main people affected. You got customers, employees, and owners. You know, customers expose a lot of problems for people in a business. Customer gets upset. They complain to frontline staff. The complaint makes it all the way to the top. Someone at the top makes a change or a patch to the system. Hey, we're going to do this instead. And then it kind of like Reaganomics its way back down to the bottom. It gets to the person at the front line. The customer gets it and it goes, this doesn't work for me, and gets mad and then starts the cycle all over again. And what happens? Well, you could lose that customer, but at the very least, you lose them as a cheerleader for your business. And how are you going to grow when no one's willing to say, they're really good, or I really like them, you should do business with them? So why does this happen? Why do we have this kind of problem that I think all of you have probably seen before? There's no process. Everyone's busy. Customer starts a fire, what do you want to do? Put it out as quickly as possible and move on, right? Find a quick solution, and the quick solution isn't the best. When you repeat the quick solution, those quick solutions pile up on top of each other, and then it just congests the business very heavily, and it creates all sorts of slow, cumbersome processes. It's possible to find the best solution. You got to start by talking to customers. Learn more about them and their needs. Identify the problems from the most important people in your business. And who here is a customer of someone? That's everybody, right? Can you think of an experience where a company proactively came to you, or if you raised a problem, they took action, and you were able to see that action? So just think about that, and how did that make you feel? Okay. Something just to think about. When I lived in New Zealand, I worked for a warehouse and logistics for a snowboard company, and we imported all of the snowboard gear. We had tons of containers of it. It was highly sought after and stolen. And so we get twice a year, we'd ship to all the retailers in the country. And a couple retailers got upset with us. Why is my competition getting the gear before us? And this is days. So we went to them, chatted for a while, figured out why they needed it the same day. We went back to the office, made a plan, checked in with the customer, said, does this work for you? They said, perfect. Went back, so what I did was shipped everything in a week. And we used office staff and temps to get it done. And we started by shipping to the furthest stores first and working our way back toward our warehouse. And the other thing that we did is I went to the freight company and I said, this is what I need, can you do it? And they said, sure, as long as you ship it the same day, we'll deliver to any two stores are in the same town, we'll deliver to both stores on the same day. Everybody was happy, and it worked really well. And so it's possible to find the best solution, you just gotta spend a little time on it. And I don't think it required a ton of time. It was a few phone calls and a few conversations within the office. Next, you got employees. Employees, as an employee, I've had many titles. Most of them felt like this. Asked to perform miracles, asked to do more with less. And I do want to point out unreliable data by those with questionable knowledge. It's not that your bosses or owners are idiots. Well, no, it's not that they're idiots. It's that they have no idea what you do for your job. They gave you that job a couple years ago. You've changed it 4 or 5 times. And they're working off unreliable data because they don't know what to do. And then they're telling you what to do. And you're like, okay, this doesn't really work. And then you just say, okay, and then you go and do something different. I've seen that repeatedly over and over again. How many of you ever had that in the job? Regular basis? Yeah, feels fantastic, doesn't it? And from my experience, they tend to go, oh, here's how we fix the problem. Throw another person at it, and that's a temporary solution, and it kind of helps, but it doesn't really solve the problem long term. And when you operate this way, you tend to keep pushing employees to the max, and then they end up burning out. And that's no fun either. I always like this, they're 2.5 times as likely to burn out if it's happening to them a majority of their job. So that's a cause for high employee turnover, which lurks unnoticed, and then suddenly one day it just erupts and it's all over you, and you can't, you got this big problem to deal with. We also know employees feel unchallenged, not supported, but they do like, to add knowledge. And we know too that they're not motivated by just money. Sometimes you're going to have the wrong people, but most would improve with the right training and support. This is the other one that turns me rage red, is 58% of managers didn't receive any management training. I've worked for those managers. They're promoted because they were good at the jobs. I taught skiing for years. They would get these great instructors, and then they would turn them into supervisors. And they had no idea how to manage people, and then they would quit the next year and go back to teaching. And if if you change some of that kind of push toward them, got them more training, provided more support, I think it could challenge the employees, to solve the needs of your customers. And they'll feel valued, and it will create happier, more productive people. When you do that, I think then the solutions that those employees can come up with would help change your systems to fit your customers instead of trying to force your customers into your outdated systems. And anyone currently an employee of someone? Whether you enjoy your job or not, what's one thing a boss could do for you now that would elevate your happiness? Lastly, you got owners. Many owners seem to never have time to perform. They're busy. They're performing 10 different jobs. They hate doing most of them. They're good at some of them. And they never have time to do the ones they actually enjoy. Even worse, they'll prioritize the ones they enjoy and neglect the things that are really important to the business, like HR. HR is neglected a lot. And that one's going to cost you the most when it goes wrong. But it gets neglected because it's not fun or they don't have the skill set for it. But they figured, I can do it. Do owners have to be involved in every aspect of the business? Is do-it-yourself the best option all the time? When you're working 60 hours a week or more, I don't think so. I think there are ways to do it better. I always ask somebody when I'm talking to them, is there a way you can utilize your staff or other people better? And the answer I always get is, well, it's complicated what I do, and it's hard to hand off. And I murmur some sort of words under my breath, but try not to say them out loud. So if that's the problem, there's two things you can change instantly. Change your processes, streamline them so they're easier to perform the tasks, and then have the right tools for the job. And if you do those things, then you can delegate to staff better. And where you don't have staff, look at hiring outside people to do the work for you. Maybe that's an independent HR person to do HR for you, or a marketing person to take on those tasks for you until it becomes cost effective, or you grow to the point where it's like, okay, now I need somebody in the office all the time. Any business owners? If you streamline processes or delegated to somebody some tasks and say it freed up 20% of your time, how would you spend it? Life would be a little different. So if you truly do want to, improve customer service, employee retention, change the environment in your business, maybe you want to flip to flexible work schedules for staff. You want to increase your productivity. You want to reduce your workload. You want to remember what your family members look like. There are ways you got to think differently and approach it by starting at the cause of the problem, because that is a very 90s thing to do. And it's not the 90s anymore. We have so much more knowledge in tech, and you need to operate like it's 2020. And I'm sorry I keep putting up photos of myself up here. I really apologize. I have the suit still, but I forgot to bring it. So start with your customers. What do they want? What do they need? How can you serve them better? It's a survey, phone interview, take them to coffee, do something with them. And I always ask this question at the end. What question didn't I ask you that you wish I had asked? It's a good one at the end of the conversation, because sometimes you're going to get stuff you never even brought up in your questions. Next, where are you and your staff spending your time? Track it. There's tracker apps out there. You can write it in your day planner. At the very least, because I know some people won't spend the time to write down everything you do in a week, write down the things so you're driving home at the end of the day, or you're sitting in the evening journaling or whatever. Write down the thing that drove you crazy that day and how much time it took up. And if you wrote down your spouse's name, well, that's an entirely different conversation I can't help you with, but at least that gives you an idea of where you're having some issues. Do you truly understand your employees? What motivates them? What they actually do for a job? spending time with them to actually get to know them. And I don't mean an annual review that looks kind of like this. You need to ask them actual questions, and that doesn't have to be an annual review. Go skiing. It's a powder day today at Bridger. Go for a walk. Take them to lunch. Be ready for the answer on this one. What is one thing that I'm doing that is hindering your productivity? Because that one could, you gotta take that one and not get defensive. And what does support for me look like to you? Because that could be, I would like a gift card to Cafe M every once in a while, or it would be nice if you said thank you. I used to have a boss that would say thank you. He'd be like, hey, thanks for doing that. And he never made eye contact. And I'm like, wow, I really feel the gratitude there. So it's asking them those good questions. We know employees want to be more productive, feel valued, be appreciated. They want to add skills and knowledge. Don't you think this would be a good start to that path, to making good, productive people? Because when they're more productive, they're going to be more efficient for you. It's going to make you more money. So it's all helpful in there. Oh, yeah.
So, in talking about this from the owner's perspective, what happens if you have a bunch of employees that have that attitude, but it's the boss or the owner or the manager, the one that's, how do we flip that?
Yeah.
To make that manager or that boss
Yeah, well, I mean,
get out of your way?
my cure was, hey, here's my 2 weeks notice. But you can't always do that. And it's one of the things is like, how do you start getting this mentality into the owners of like, my employees suck? No, well, maybe you're not providing them the best tools for success, and trying to change that mindset. One of the things I'm gonna, what things at the end I'll mention is if you're an employee of somebody and you think that you have that feeling, let's go get coffee because we can try to figure it out. Because I've experienced it. I mean, I've worked for a lot of people. Most of them is because I've been moving around the country and the world. And so I've quit to go move somewhere else. But there are a couple jobs where I'm like, I mean, I've done a lot for you and I've made you a bunch of money and I saved you a ton of expenses. And now I want to do more and you're telling me, well, just stick to your job. You're fine right there. You don't need to do anything else. And I'm just like, okay, now I'm bored. I want to be challenged. And so my approach sucked. I didn't do it well because I never got the message across that I can do more for you and I want to do more and I want to help you more. How does that look? It was more of me being upset and being like, come on, give me something here, So my approach sucked. So there's a better way to do it, Does that kind of answer?
Yes.
Yeah, thanks. So let me figure out quickly where I'm at. No problem. So now that you have good data from customers and your staff, take action on it. What processes can be improved or created to improve the customer satisfaction and the happiness of your employees? Improving processes will give staff more time, which will allow owners to delegate, which will give staff new skills and new tasks to take on. They'll feel more valued. They'll feel more valued, they'll be happier. They'll be happier, they'll be more productive. They'll be more productive, they'll make less mistakes. They'll be less mistakes, customer service should increase. And now you have more time as an owner to support those employees. What happens again? That cycle starts again. The happier employees, more productive. So it's this continual cycle of joy going on there because people are actually doing what they want to do. They're adding skills to their life. And yes, you may be training these people to leave you at some stage to go somewhere else, but it happens, But if your employees are happy, I'm sure the number of people who stay longer, according to all the stats, is, they'll stay with you longer, which reduces your expenses because turnover is a massive expense for businesses. Getting an outside point of view, can greatly help. The woman earlier, she could not see the obvious pain point right in front of her. So, and yes, it feels embarrassing to expose your business to somebody. It's like airing your dirty laundry, but you're not the only one. There's a whole lot of businesses just in this town that are doing it, let alone around the world. Don't let that perceived embarrassment, keep you from reaching the dream of what you envision your business to be. I would love to help with unpleasant trends disappear in your life. Here are some questions that I hope get that started for you, and I have these on a card I'm going to pass out here in a minute. And I know many of you won't take me up on this, but I'm happy to go get coffee with anybody here today. Whether it's diving into these questions a little bit, maybe you do a time track study and you just want to bounce it off somebody. Survey questions, you want to start thinking about the best way to approach that. Or you're an employee of somebody and you want to figure out, how do I convince my boss we should be doing something like this? Because as an employee, if you go to your boss and say, I think we need this, and be like, well, why the hell do I have you then? That's a scary thing for an employee to go do. So why do you want to bring that up if you don't know what the reaction is going to be from the owner? So leave you with a challenge. Get out of your lane, rock the boat. Don't just do it because. Figure out why you do it and change it to work better for you. Because, one, change is hard. It does take some planning, but it doesn't require any heavy lifting. Well, thank you. Do you guys have any questions?
What do you find is the best thing as you're coaching either an employer or an employee to approach the other side and say, hey, this isn't happening and they need it to? What is the most important thing that holds people back in that conversation?
That's hard for me because I'm more of like process type of person. That's where I pick up the phone and call somebody like Lori Addix, who talked here a few months ago, or someone else that does like people coaching to kind of address how do you get there. And if I'm working with you and I see that's the problem, the first thing I'm going to do is call someone like her and have her sit down with the owner and say, hey, I think you guys should talk first. And then have her work on the change the mindsets, or if you truly want this, or a business coach like Karen Lum is in town. And there's people that can help an owner kind of realize, oh, I have to change. I can attempt it. I don't think I'd be good at it as well as those people. I could figure it out, but I would rather just get someone better than me at it to do that kind of thing.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
That came up just in a conversation yesterday that I think this was a helpful tool that somebody shared with me, in that if you, somebody is saying, like, you're having a tough conversation or trying to, and saying, identifying a really positive thing about that individual and using that characteristic of like, you're really proactive in a lot of things you do. What could we utilize from that skill set to have you think more proactively in this area? Because then they're not automatically on the defense.
Mm. Which could go back to kind of some of these kind of questions. Which, while I think of it, because before I forget, I want to pass these around.
Yeah, Randall, what would you say is your superpower? I had a friend that wasn't able to make it today, and she was like, I was really interested in coming. What exactly does Randall? What would be, if someone asked me, what is your superpower, possibly that you can help someone with their business? Would you?
I think I'm perfect in every way, and I'm the most humble person you know. That would probably be it. I like going in and looking at what's happening in a business and see what's happening and just start looking for the things that are jumping out at me, and then asking you, like, what do you think your issues are? What do you think your pain points are? That's why the time tracker thing is a big thing, is getting someone to do a track of their time and going, God, I'm spending most of my time doing this. But I do kind of love to go in and look at stuff, see it, and go, oh, okay, have you ever thought of this? And just start asking tons of questions of like, have you ever thought about doing it this way? Any job I've ever had, that was the thing, and be like, so how come you are doing it this way? And I get we've always done it this way. And I'm like, so do you mind if I change it? And they change it. And then someone goes, well, hey, I want something more to do. And they say, well, you should be doing your job. I'm like, yeah, I already did that. It's all done. What else can I do? They're like, well, it should take you 4 hours to do. I'm like, no, it takes me 2 now because I changed it. type of thing. So it is just going in, looking, and kind of like big picture, and then narrowing down to a problem, and then pulling back out and go, okay, looking at another problem.
Streamlining.
Yeah, because it was interesting, I went to a panel of female entrepreneurs recently, and the number one thing that they all said, very successful businesses, is that the importance of being able to execute in their business, and that seems like a hurdle. Like there's a lot of coaching out there and a lot of theory and stuff, but that getting down to that actually executing. And I can say for my own business, that's probably what I'm great with this, but to bring it into here.
Yeah, and it's mainly looking at your to-do list of like, these are all my problems. I want to take them off your list. I don't want to tell you how to take them off your list. I want to take them off your list for you so you don't have to do the work. And it is that change the process. Is this the best software for you? Like, hey, I know of this. And I'll come across the things like, oh, we're sitting here having a conversation. I want to, grow my business. Okay, well, you have a logo from 1984 that's, peach. I don't think that's really going to jump out and grab people. You need a branding guy, like, here, sit down with him and work on that. And meanwhile, here's the things that you and I can do together while you're working on that. Because if you get a new look and you're now growing your business and all these new sales are coming in, well, your processes might not be ready for that. So I want to set your processes up that you can be sitting back going, wow, it's a little slow. And then all of a sudden all this new business comes in and you're not overwhelmed by the new business. And then all of a sudden you're providing bad customer service to people because you weren't ready for this new business and you weren't, your processes weren't ready for it, type of thing. Yeah. Anyone else?
At the very beginning, you said you focus on 3 areas,
Mm-hmm.
and I haven't started listening yet.
No. I'm going to check what I actually said because I usually just make it up each time, So, what did I say? So it's process improvement, reducing expenses, and this is why I never go on Jeopardy, because when I'm under pressure, I can't think of it. Yeah. Well, that was one of the side effects, is an effect of it. And of course, I can't, see, you got me under pressure here. It'll come to me. So if someone else has a question, it'll pop up in the middle of that question. I know it. Mm-hmm.
When you talked about reviews, I've had several reviews when I was a full-time employee, working for myself, but, they always say, what's your criticism or feedback for your boss? I have never once been honest.
Yeah.
Because my job I feel like my job is at risk. Right?
Yeah.
I have notes, I have feedback, but I never have provided it because I feel like I'm going to be. Is that more like creating a culture within the company of accepting that feedback, or really, it doesn't employee that?
Yeah, I actually took a couple words out of a sentence, and it was basically saying what you just said. You know how a customer complains to frontline staff complain up if they feel supported by management. And that happens a lot, where they're just like, well, why say anything? They're not going to listen to me anyway. And then you go to your customer like, oh, you're really upset? Here's my boss's number. Give him a call. Like I've seen that, where people make the runaround to get to the boss, because it's like you want your favorite product carried in the grocery store, and the guy distributing it saying, you should carry this. They're not going to carry it. But a customer walks in and says, you should be carrying this. Suddenly it's in the store the next day. It's the same thing. If you have management and owners that aren't listening, your employees aren't going to feel safe to do it that way. But I kind of think of, one thought I had is taking, like those questions, answering them yourself, and bringing them to your review, and saying, hey, these are things that I've been, pondering, and just want to give, my feedback based on these questions I found on a thing online, like whatever it is. If they react poorly and fire you, it's a powder day.
So as a first-time boss, I really, really wanted all that feedback.
Yeah.
And the thing that makes the biggest difference in my experience is what you have up there. Do the review out of the office.
Yeah.
Just get out of that habitat.
Yep.
And it just opens people up a lot better.
So when I was living in New Zealand, me and a buddy opened up a gelato business. We were making gelato, selling it retail and wholesale around the city. And we had portable carts at the art center, and then we took to events, but we sold a lot of it to restaurants and cafes and everything. All the employees I hired were at a coffee shop sitting outside in the sun. And we just sit there and BS for an hour, have a chat, and get to know them a little bit. And, and then when they're sitting there working, it's like, hey, let's go for a walk. We go walk around the block and just chat, how's things going, how long are you going to be here? Because a lot of these people were UK people on a 1-year working visa. I had chefs, designers, like very high-skilled people that were tramping around New Zealand and landed in Christchurch for a few weeks, a few months, and just needed to make some money to pay for the next leg of their trip. And so, they were always awesome. So I think I was a bit spoiled because, they're highly skilled people that just wanted enough cash, to put gas in the van, type of thing. But I think getting out of the office is the big one. Because I think sitting at your desk with somebody sitting there, hey, can I see you in my office for a minute? What's the first thing you do? Your gut kind of drops a little bit. Yeah. What did I do wrong? Yeah.
So in explaining all this, you're taking it from the standpoint of a for-profit business model. What about not-for-profit or government?
Yeah.
Some of these others that don't have to rely on profitability.
So I'm talking to 2 different nonprofits in town right now about that. Like, how can I help you, and how the hell are you going to pay for it? You can't afford it. I already know. I've done enough nonprofit work that they can't afford it. One thing that I'm doing is researching grants. What grants are out there that would pay for me to help you streamline your processes, that would save you guys a whole bunch of time, so that you can put that energy towards something else. And part of that is, if it can streamline your processes, it drops your admin costs. Well, now a donor is going to be like, oh, your admin's costs were 15%. Why are they 10 now? Like, oh yeah, we streamlined everything, blah, blah, blah. So I don't know if there's grants out there, but it's one of those things I'm trying to explore, is what is out there to pay to help get you to that point, because they don't have the cash to do that. And maybe they have a donor that would really like to see, oh my gosh, if you could reduce your admin costs this much, hey, why don't we find a donor who will pay for that? Maybe you got a business that would be like, yeah, we'll help you do that. So those are the conversations we're kind of having at the moment, is how do we do that? How would that work? So I think it's possible. Even if they can't pay for it, they can plan for it, and how they do it, And I'm flexible too. One company that I was talking to about doing stuff is like I can show you how much we can save over the course of a year by changing this process. It'll save this much time, which equates this much dollars. Pay me that over the course of the next year, pay me this percentage of it over the course of a year as an option as well. So lots of ways to do it. I'm not just a singular way of doing everything. So, I'm open to whatever. And then of course, if I care about the nonprofit, I'm a sucker. So thank you.